And welcome back. You are listening to Let's Talk with Dr. Sheila. I am Dr. Sheila Forman, clinical psychologist and attorney at law. And on this show, we talk about everything and anything about your life from both a psychological and legal point of view. If you've been listening, you know that this month we've been focusing on family. In our first show of the month, we talked about how to have a happy marriage, and I gave you 10 tips for doing just that. And I also talked about prenuptial agreements and how to use them as a foundation for a happy and long-lasting marriage. In week number 2 of this month, we talked about children and how to raise emotionally healthy children. And in that show, I actually gave you 12 tips on how to do just that, including some strategies and some common mistakes if you're negotiating child rearing after divorce. Last week, we took a look at adoption, and we addressed both the psychological and legal issues related to creating a family through that means, through adoption. This week, we're going to be talking about divorce. If everything that we talked about for the last 3 weeks has failed you, and it's time for divorce, we're going to be looking at both the psychological and legal implications of divorce. And in particular, my goal is to help you develop the skills to have a healthy divorce. That's right, a healthy divorce. It's possible. It is possible to create a peaceful and amicable divorce, and I'm going to help you do just that. Well, let's get started. Let me give you 7 tips for how to have a happy or amicable divorce. The first tip is to cooperate. In order to have a happy or good divorce, both parties have to be willing. It's very hard to have a good divorce or a healthy divorce if one party is fighting. So the first tip is to cooperate. Stop fighting with each other and commit to finding solutions. Finding solutions to the financial issues, finding solutions to the child rearing issues, and so forth. So cooperate. Tip number 2 for how to have an amicable divorce is learn to listen to each other. You might remember from previous shows, we talked a lot about the skill of listening and the skill of empathy and how to really pay attention when your partner is talking. So you're not just hearing what they're saying, but you're really listening and you're really getting it. When you learn to listen, you're setting yourself up to having a good or healthy divorce. Tip number 3 is accept each other. That your partner is who he or she is, and you know what? They're not going to change now. They're going to be the same person now through the divorce and after the divorce that they were before. So accept each other. Stop fighting who the other person is. And you might remember from our show on happy marriage, that was actually one of the tips on how to have a happy marriage in the first place. Tip number 4, acknowledge and accept each other's feelings, including your own. Experience them and release them. Divorce brings so many emotions, positive and negative. The negative ones are the common ones like grief and anger and depression. But sometimes you're going to have a good feeling too, like relief and hope. Acknowledge and accept your feelings, and that's another tip for having an amicable divorce. Tip number 5, own your part. It takes 2 to build a good marriage. It also takes 2 to have a marriage fail. Stop blaming your partner. Take responsibility for the part you played and why the marriage didn't work. Learn from it and use it as you move into future relationships. Tip number 6, you may not like this one, but it's an important one. This one is forgive your partner. Now, it's important to understand that forgiveness is not about acceptance. You don't have to like what your partner did, but you forgive them. In other words, you stop making them pay for whatever crime they may or may not have committed. And forgiveness truly is more for you than for your partner. It's a way for you to let go and move forward in your life. One of the things that I noticed both as a family law attorney and then also as a clinical psychologist is that fighting actually kept couples together long after their divorce was final. So tip number 7 for how to have an amicable divorce is let go. Stop the fighting. Stop fighting to stop keeping each other together. Move forward. This is Dr. Sheila Forman. You are listening to Let's Talk with Dr. Sheila. We'll be back right after these commercial messages.